So today we're talking about 10 takeaways, 10, count them, 10 takeaways that I got from my thru hike of the Appalachian Trail. So if you were looking for equipment tips, this is not the right video. I'll tell you that on the front end, because when I start with number one, you'll realize that this is definitely not equipment tips. But so things have changed since I hiked the trail. But one thing that hasn't changed is, I think, the attitude that you carry with you on the trail. That will never change. And so that's what this video is about attitudinal takeaways that I have from the Appalachian Trail that I think would really benefit someone thinking about hiking the Appalachian Trail, either as a section hiker or as a thru hiker today. So number one, and we said this all the time when I hiked, is hike your own hike. And what does that mean? It means that if you're a section hiker, great, good on you. If you're a thru hiker, great, good on you. If you're just out there for the weekend with your buddies, great, good on you. Have a good time. Does it matter what kind of equipment you use? No, as long as it's safe and not dangerous to you or others. I don't care what you use. You know, if that's your budget, that's your budget. If you want to get on the trail and hike for a little bit and then go off on the Blue Blaze and do other things, that's great. You can do what you want to do. You don't have to do anything. Oh, and you want to hike north one day and hike south the next day? That's okay with me too. I don't mind. Hike your own hike. Doesn't matter. You do you. That's all that really matters. So hike your own hike and don't worry about what other people were doing. Now, if someone's going to claim to be a thru hiker and they didn't actually hike every mile of the trail, now I might take issue with that. But that's not a hike your own hike thing. That's a integrity thing, and that's completely different. Number two, you are not physically ready to complete a thru hike. And you never will be. The only way to get physically ready for a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail or the Continental Divide or any other long distance trail is to actually start doing it. There is no amount of preparation that you can get your body ready for putting a pack on your back and hiking day after day after day from the time you get up to the time you go to bed. There isn't any preparation you can do. And by the way, it's going to take about 2 weeks to a month before you get into actual trail hiking shape. I just want to let you in on this one, because that's a shock for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people quit before they even get to Virginia. Virginia is about a month away from Springer Mountain. That's why people quit, is they somehow think that they're going to be in shape when after a week on the trail. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Sorry. That kind of leads me to number three, is the pain never stops. And I'm not saying that it's like it should be painful the whole way, but you could get blisters at any point in time. Blisters can happen they're going to happen in the first week. I guarantee you're going to get blisters in the first week. You're 2 months down the road on the trail and it rains, your feet get wet, you're probably going to end up with blisters. It's possible that if it rains for a week straight, you might end up with trench foot, and that is nasty. But guess what? The pain never stops. You could fall and hurt yourself later on, and yes, you're going to be in pain. Guess what? That could happen in day one, and that could happen on day 130. It can happen. Another thing that people don't think about is that you're going to push yourself. At some point in time, you're going to go, I wonder if I can do a 30-mile day. It's probably going to take an effort, and it's going to hurt. I guarantee it's going to hurt. And where you do it might make it hurt less, but 31 miles with a pack, you're still going to feel it. It doesn't matter how in shape you think you are. Even if let's say you dehydrate yourself. Yeah, you're going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to have troubles because you're dehydrated. Or if you get hot, if it's 100 degrees out, you're going to be uncomfortable. That's sort of a pain. Number four, time sort of gets suspended when you're up on the Appalachian Trail. You don't have a really good feel for what day of the week it is. Now, you sort of know when it's the weekends because you see people on the trail more on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday than you would on a Monday through a Thursday. But time's sort of suspended, and you really don't need a watch. The only time matters is when you're walking into a town and you need laundry or post office or restaurant services, if you need, or grocery, if you need one of those, you sort of need to know what time it is so that you know if they're open or not when you walk into town. And you sort of need to know what day of the week it is so that you know they're open. But outside of those generalities, time is just completely suspended on the Appalachian Trail, and it really doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what time you eat lunch either. I will tell you, if you find a great spot to eat lunch, guess what? It must be lunchtime. And if you're hungry, then you eat. If you're not hungry, I guess you just kind of keep on going. When it's raining, you just don't feel like eating lunch, so you don't eat lunch. You don't sit down and go, oh, it's noon, it must be time for lunch. It's like, who cares? Have lunch when you're hungry. Eat dinner when you're hungry. Who says you have to wait to get to shelter to have dinner? There were times when I stopped on the trail by a waterfall, whipped out my stove, cooked and ate dinner right there, and then hiked to the next shelter, and then spent the night. And when I got to the shelter, I didn't have to cook because I didn't care what time I ate. I ate when I was hungry. Time is suspended. I had a flashlight that had 2 AAA batteries in it. And I changed the batteries once on my entire trek. That's how little I used a flashlight. And that's because I just got to the point where I relied on sunlight to do all my stuff. And I literally, when the sun came up, I woke up, and when the sun went down, when it got dark, I just decided it was time to go to sleep. Number 5 is you need a whole lot less stuff than you think you do. And this is sort of equipment related, but it's not really. You can talk yourself into carrying a whole lot of stuff on the Appalachian Trail. There is no end to the amount of garbage you can take with you on the Appalachian Trail. But in the end of the day, you just don't need it. There are certain things you need. You probably need a tent or a tarp or some kind of covering. You need a sleeping system. You need a sleeping pad. You need a backpack to carry it in, some way to prepare and cook your food. And then you need a first aid kit. Okay, first aid kit is the one thing I'll tell you, a piece of equipment you have to have. You have to have a first aid kit. After that, the rest of that stuff is completely and totally negotiable. Depends on what you're doing and how you're hiking. Goes back to hike your own hike, but here we are. There's a whole lot less junk that you think you need. And that list is really, really, really short. And it's much shorter than you think it is. Number 6, you need to learn how to entertain yourself. Do not rely on your phone to entertain yourself the entire time on the Appalachian Trail, because that battery will not last. You'll get to the point where you want to listen to what's going on around you. And I would suggest it's a really good idea to pay attention to what's going on around you. As a general rule, it's better for safety that way. But you need to learn how to entertain yourself. And you need to be uncomfortable with entertaining yourself and talking to yourself without talking to yourself negatively. There is a very important distinction of talking to yourself positively and talking to yourself negatively. And I will tell you, as a result of me hiking the Appalachian Trail, there are times when I can get in the car and I can make an entire drive of 1 or 2 hours or something like that and never turn on the radio, iPod, iPhone, whatever, not have any kind of radio going in the background. I know some people that would drive them crazy, but I'm telling you, it's a skill that people don't work on anymore, is entertaining themselves and talking positively to themselves. Number 7, people will not understand why you're doing what you're doing. There will be people that you know personally, and there'll be people that you don't know at all that will criticize what you're doing. Guess what? That happens in all walks of life. People criticize what other people do. But it seems like a national pastime. So just know that not everybody will understand your motivations for doing the Appalachian Trail. Not everyone will get on board with it. And it really doesn't matter. It matters to you, and it matters to what you think is important. So if you think hiking the Appalachian Trail is important, whatever your reasons are, sure, share them with people. Sure, tell your friends and family what they are. But don't rely on them to support your reasons. And if that's important to you, then it would be worth doing. You go and do it. Number 8 is the human body is amazing, and you can do a lot more than you think you can. A lot of people, they go until it's uncomfortable and they go, oh, it's so painful. It's like, no, that was uncomfort. That wasn't pain. Most people stop at uncomfortable. Where uncomfortable starts is where most people stop. And the Appalachian Trail, we've already talked about this, is that the pain never stops. The discomfort never stops. You're not going to get comfortable with hiking every day. You're going to get used to it, but you're not going to get completely comfortable with it. And so your body is amazing. It can push way beyond what you think. If you're having a bad day, just kind of try to reframe it, focus in on the moment, and then do what you need to do to get to the next place. And then you can regroup when you get there. We're talking about July. I would come into camp and I'd been hiking all day and now I'm sweaty. I pull off my pack, and an hour after I pulled off my pack, I'm over there going, I'm cold. And why is that? It's because my body was so adapted to saving and conserving energy that I got into camp, I sat down, and the body went, oh, you don't need us to hike anymore? Okay, well, the body reached over there and went, turned off all those different switches. And now it was relying on, it knew that it was going to need maximum calories for the next time that I got up and put on my pack. So my body said, guess what? We're turning off the heat, we're turning off the AC, we're turning off the temperature regulation, we're turning off this and we're turning off that. And guess what? Oh, it's probably going to be time for you to go to sleep in a minute so you can rest and relax and be ready for tomorrow. And oh, by the way, all these things are happening at once. Number 9 is your thought process is different. You're just going to think differently than other people. You're going to look at your map, and you're going to see a shelter that's 10 miles away, one that's 15 miles away, and one that's 20 miles away. And then you're going to go look and see where those shelters are located, and you're going to go, I really want this view for dinner. I think I'll go for the 20-mile day. Or I did a 31-mile day one time just because this is so stupid. It's unbelievable how ridiculous this is going to sound. But we're in New York and we're hiking. And somebody mentioned, oh, well, we're coming up on a place called thru-hike Circle. And it's a place in New York State where, people from New York City come down and they go to the beach and they swim. It's not really a beach. It's a sandy spot at a lake. But anyways, and there's a Coke machine going to be there. And so we can get a cold Coke. And so we hiked 31 miles in the rain just to get to this place called thru-hike Circle to pitch our tent next to this guard shack because there's a Coke machine. And the whole day I was wondering, I wonder if that Coke machine takes dollar bills. Now, I know in this day and time, that's like they take credit cards now. But at that point in time, I was wondering if the Coke machine took dollar bills. And then I got there, and yes, the Coke machine took dollar bills, but it was $2 for a 12-ounce can of Coke. And I was like, oh, I'm not interested anymore. Your thought process on the Appalachian Trail is so different than anybody else or anything else. And so you just need to keep that in mind, is you're going to think differently than other people about the trail and about other things. Number 10, people quit all the time. And this kind of goes back to hike your own hike, but people get on the trail for different reasons. Some people get on the trail with the idea of actually finishing a through hike of the Appalachian Trail. Some people get on the trail with an idea of, I want to make significant change in my life. And so they get on there and they start hiking and they get to X point and they go, hey, I've made change. And so they leave the trail because they got out of it what they expected to get out of it, or they got out of it what they wanted to get out of it. Other people get on it with that same expectation of, hey, I want to make significant change in my life. They make the change and then they go, hey, you know what, this is pretty cool. I think I'd like to finish. And then there's other people who, they go into a town and they make a phone call and they find out the home scene is blowing up. And so they need to go back home and take care of things. And they end up leaving the trail. Some people come back, some people don't. They might have got out of it what they expected to get out of it. I don't know. I can't tell. I don't have the communication with those people. Once they leave the trail, you kind of lose communication with them, so you don't know. I will tell you that people will quit at every stage of the game. There are people that would get to the 100-mile wilderness in Maine and quit. I know that happened when I was hiking. I'm thinking they went, the trail is 2,100 miles long-ish, and they went 2,000 miles, got to 2,000 miles and thought, I'm done. What's up with that? That was nuts, in my opinion. If I'd had 2 broken legs and 1 broken arm, hey, as long as I had one good arm, I could drag myself along the trail to finish the trail, I was going to finish. So I don't understand why people would quit. I know it happens, and I know there are reasons, and I know some of them are good reasons, some of them are lame, but guess what? People quit every good thing in life, and why should the Appalachian Trail be any different? So there's 10 takeaways from the Appalachian Trail. Now there's one bonus item, and I want to tell you that if you're going to hike the Appalachian Trail, you need a plan for when you're finished. The plan doesn't need to be get off the trail. That's not a plan for when you're finished. A plan for you're finished is, what are you going to do with your experience? Are you going to share it with other people? Are you going to set a goal to do another long distance hike? Are you going to use the fitness that you've gained to maybe help encourage other people? I mean, with social media the way it is now, it's very easy to encourage other people in fitness because everybody has a platform. And so the last thing I would really tell you as a takeaway from the Appalachian Trail is have a plan. And this is for any goal. Have a plan when you're finished. When you reach that goal, whatever it is, have a plan for the next goal. Because if you don't, you'll just kind of flounder and wander, and it just won't make any sense. So I hope these 10 items, plus one bonus item, have helped you in thinking about the Appalachian Trail. And I call them takeaways because I think they're takeaways that are applicable to all walks of life. So I hope that they'll help you in deciding to hike the Appalachian Trail or whatever you do. Remember, hike your own hike.